Thursday night. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. This is Thank God It's Tuesday. It's a lonely basement here tonight without Kevin Ricken, Tim Strachan. We've been working hard. We've been putting a lot of games out there, broadcasting games, I should say, and as a result of that, we have some very well-deserved absences. But since all I got to do is walk downstairs, the show will go on and must go on and will go on. And I hope Kevin and T are able to hit the boards and join us a little bit tonight. We'll see if we can catch them. We do actually have a very special guest here in the basement. Why don't you come and join us here tonight? You know, I set you up a microphone and I set you up a headphone. I figured this show is all about getting excited. If we were like 2-8, I wouldn't put you through this. Everybody, Rhett, everybody. Usually you see Rhett from behind the keyboard on the boards. Now he actually has his hair's brushed.
Yeah.
And you came over and you got your sweatshirt on.
From the board to the boardroom. Thank you, Ken.
It is. I like that. That's kind of you're natural. but we're not 2-8. We're 4-6, and that's why we got some Notorious B.I.G. on. We're doing a little celebrating down here in the basement. First of all, cheers! Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Happy Thanksgiving, Ken. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody on the board.
Yes, we appreciate people hanging out with us on a holiday week, especially with all the traveling going on. But more than that, during happy times, the idea that we are celebrating Victory Tuesday, which is always a fun time in the basement.
That's what we're here for.
And the idea that when I put on my rose-colored glasses a couple weeks ago and assured everyone this team would make the playoffs, they're making us feel just like we're maybe a little bit right. We appreciate that.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, 2 weeks ago at 2-6, nobody thought we would make a run like we have over the last 2 weeks. So we're in a good spot. We are optimistic here.
And by the way, that is Bell's Two-Hearted Ale. We already got a recognition on the can.
Looking for sponsors.
We are looking for sponsors, but I think Greg Martin is a fan of. I'm pretty sure he's a fan of anything that's like you don't see every day. I feel like he always names some like random beers. I mean, I'm sure he drink and when he commits to a period of not drinking beer, he makes it the whole way. I'm just saying.
If you need a good beer, come to the basement. Ken is always stocked.
Always stocked, and I don't drink beer.
Yeah, that's why I'm here every Tuesday.
I need all the help I can get. Everybody who's watching, we are noticing an uptick in subscribers for us. That's great. We appreciate it. If you are watching tonight, click the subscribe button. It is free subscription. What else can you ask for in life? We talk about the greatest team in the Washington area playing football these days. That is at the professional level in the Landover vicinity, and occasionally we mix up a few other things. But let's get right to where we're at. And why I also think it's a lot of fun that Rhett's joining me tonight. So we watch games together, and we have now for a couple years. So it's I'm happy for you. I know you're happy for me. We're happy for everybody. But I always call it the best TV show. You know, my favorite TV show is Washington Redskins, Washington football team. I think it's generally. I understand that it's like depressing at times. It has everything. It's got its ups, it's got its downs, but it's the good times are that much better if you suffer through those low spots. And we did. We suffered through some pretty low spots this season.
Yeah, that's entirely correct. I mean, you don't understand the highs of being a Washington football fan unless you experience the lows. And we have certainly had a lot of those lows. So when we get the highs, it feels a little better.
Yeah. And we get to
some of the other teams
get to enjoy it. I feel like anyone can enjoy a win. Anyone who calls themselves a WFT fan, these wins belong to you. But to the people who have been tuning in when it's been hard to do so, and here we are, we're talking like we're 6-4 or 8-2. I mean, we're still 4-6. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to get out over my skis on this one. A lot of work left to do. But the last 2 weeks have been awesome because we get a win over a team you're not supposed to beat, and then a win over a team that you want to beat for a variety of reasons. You think you can, first and foremost. You think Carolina is beatable. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the league, so that's a test. It's Ron Rivera going home, and we laid an egg for him last year. Didn't want to see that happen again. You get a chance to take on Cam Newton and that absolutely ridiculous story, and once again you had to watch it in mute because Mark Sanchez was on the call.
Well, it's the NFL. Okay, so when everybody looks at the schedule going into the year, you all of a sudden you do the W's, you do the L's, you say we're going to beat the Saints, we're going to beat the Chargers. Oh well, we can't beat Tampa, we can't beat this team. It's the NFL. Every week is its own beast, and you look at the rest of the schedule and you say there are some teams that we can beat, and it's not the same as when you looked at it in August. Okay,
That's
not
right.
the same. So it's a 1 week endeavor, and the past 2 weeks we've gone out and we've gone 1-0 and 1-0.
And I think that's, well, first of all, that's the right way to look at it, especially in football when you're still alive. Obviously, when you get to the point where you're heading cruising towards a 3-13 season or in a 17 game season, 3-14 or 4-13 or whatever the math is. I mean, poor Detroit. You get to a point where being 1-0 in a week is kind of torturous, because then you're like, well, shit, if we won that game, why didn't we win these other 17 games? But the one thing I like about the last 2 weeks is that, well, I like more than one thing, but what stands out to me is it really did change a lot of people's perspective. Now, I know people like me who are kind of insufferable optimists and homers, and I get it. It's hard for me to be around myself. But there's, what's happened over the last 2 weeks has made people look at our team differently. And that's fun for me. It's fun for all of us, because I don't want people looking at my team and feeling either sorry for me or dismissing, my team. I hate that. We know the feeling extremely well. And even though we're foreign, the public, as the gambling community now refers to everyone they disagree with, the public, they're looking at us differently. And that's worth something.
Of course it is. And we look at other teams, and we have over the years, and say, it's just Carolina. We got to beat Carolina. Everybody says that about us. They've been saying that same thing for years, and we're sitting here like thinking, okay, we can say it's just Carolina. They've been saying that about us. So when we go in and we play Tampa, when we play Carolina, they're thinking the same thing that we're thinking of. Well, this is a W on our schedule. So it's just nice that we got it for Ron. It's nice that the last 2 weeks we have been able to show, the national media that maybe they were right about some of the things they said about us in the preseason, that they think maybe this team is better, than a 4-win team or a 3-win team. And after the first 8 weeks, it was kind of looking like we were going to be that. But I've seen a lot of things where I think to myself, we can make a run. There's nothing that's told me.
We're in the middle of a run right now.
There's nothing that's told me that this is a fluke. The way that Taylor's been playing, the way that the defense is starting to come together, the way that the offensive, we'll get into that. The way that the offensive line has been playing. There's nothing that tells me that the last 2 weeks that we have won these games is just a crazy NFL. All right, this team, that's going to be a 4-win team, can beat a team every now and then. No, we won those games pretty convincingly for me at least.
The win over Tampa Bay was extremely convincing because of the way we won it. We held the ball for pretty much the entire fourth quarter and stuffed it down Tom Brady's throat. We didn't back into that win. They didn't lose the game. We won it. That is a statement in and of itself. The Carolina game was interesting because it wasn't in hand necessarily, and the moment in which I kind of had a real change of heart about certain things about this team is Carolina's holding all their timeouts, and we forced them on a 4th down situation late in the fourth quarter, and they're going to punt. They send the punt team out, and they immediately changed course. They realized, well, wait a second, look what they just did to Tampa Bay a week ago. If we give these guys the ball, we might not get it back. And, of course, they made a huge mistake. Obviously, they stayed out on offense, so we get the ball back. We're unable to capitalize more than a field goal. We still have to make them score a touchdown, and they can't do it. But That's recognition. If I'm the majority of teams we've played over the last 8, 9, 10 years, I'm never punting, ever. I'm going for it every single time, no matter what the yard and distance, because that's been achievable by our opponent. I don't know why anyone's punted against us. And whoever my number one receiver is, I'm throwing to him every single play. Every single play. And we've been able to change that narrative a little bit.
Well, I'll say this. Every play that Christian McCaffrey didn't have the ball, I thought that was a win for us. I don't know why I think he only finished with 10 carries or something like that.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that made zero sense whatsoever. I don't understand what they were doing on offense, but every single time that they ran anything and it didn't involve him, I thought they don't know what they're doing. And I agree. Like, and I don't know if it's as a football fan or as just a fan of sports in general. Every time somebody lines up to go for it on fourth down, because you just have that mentality of, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
But I would do the same thing. I would just go for it. I'd put us in a position to make a play, because over the years we haven't been able to make those plays.
Yep.
So every single time they put, I don't know. I was at a loss for words when I was watching that game and thinking, there's so many things that they could do that would make us be unable to stop them. And they got away from it.
Who was your MVP on Sunday?
Oh, Taylor.
Taylor Heineke.
100%.
So I thought we had a couple of people who were thinking, I don't want to do like the cheesy radio gig that we always do every year, but I do like the idea of it's Thanksgiving, and Greg Martin had a good idea of comparing players to the things that are going to be on the buffet table on Thursday.
Sure.
So I'll ask you first and foremost, who is the main dish, the carved turkey of this team?
It has to be Taylor. It has to be.
So wait, okay. So I'll disagree with you, but not just because there's two of us and I have to disagree with you. I don't think he's the turkey. I think he's the other most important ingredient on the table. I do. I will say, and I'll save it for because I want to tell you who I think the turkey is. I agree with some folks. I mean, I think Jonathan Allen is the turkey. I think that he is a stud. I think that we gave him the money. We re-signed him. I think he's played up to every penny of it. I think that he has absolutely dominated on the line of scrimmage this season. He's leading those guys. And, we're missing Montez Sweat and Chase Young,
right,
and we won both those games. And Jonathan Allen, to me, is I mean, I think he is the main dish. I think he's the main dish of the entire team right now. I want our team to be defined by our defense, because that's where we have so much talent and resources, and I think he is the alpha male on our defense. That's why I make him the turkey.
I'm super glad that we paid somebody money, and they have gone out and almost exceeded the expectations that we set for that person. He's a guy that if he was just an above average player, he would earn that contract, in my opinion. But he has gone out and become a dominant interior lineman.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, in a league that's just based on offense, it's hard for me to say an interior defensive lineman, is the turkey, is the main dish.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's just a fantastic player, a fantastic person. He's the guy. He's the type of person that you want in your organization.
Yep.
He is so underrated as a player, as a person. He's the kind of guy that, when you think about the Washington football team and you think about all the just horrible things in the organization, the culture has been, he's the guy that you want, to be the face of that locker room and the face of the defense. And I'm glad that we paid him. I'm glad that he's exceeded those expectations. So I understand where you're coming from. It's just difficult to say that the turkey is an interior defense.
Yep.
Because he's not going to get 16 sacks. He's not going to be all over the stat line and stuff. But he does everything that he needs to do, and he sets the tone for that defense. So I can't disagree with you because he's just a phenomenal player.
Who is And then now, instead of giving you a player, by the way, what's up, Greg? What's up, Brian Lane? Appreciate you guys. 2 planters, if you're in there. Also, we'll tell you, we do appreciate the likes, but we don't want to we're not soliciting likes here. If we do something that you like, hit the like button. We do appreciate that, but we don't just shamelessly plug for likes. We just say, everyone, I feel like every YouTube channel you watch, they're always like, give us a like, give us a subscription. I do want you to give us a subscription, please. But don't give us any likes. We'll earn the like. And if we don't, you know what? We'll just have to do better next time. And we'll just all blame Rhett.
That's what I'm here for.
Instead of saying, who's the turkey, and also that's, jive turkey. I don't know what we're going to say. Who, let me give you a player, and then you tell me what they are on the plate. All right?
It's a weird task.
I like to change things up,
Sure.
going back and forth.
Sure.
Terry McLaurin. I mean, we already put the turkey down, and as far as main dishes go, the only other player that could really contend for main dish is Terry.
The fact that he went out, I saw a stat. I think it was that his average, completion or errors, the air travel for the ball that he was targeted on was like 10 yards or something, and on Sunday it was over 20. It's just whatever you need him to do, he will do.
Yeah, and we missed him a couple times. Which is, by the same token,
But
we should be pounding the ball to him. We should be forcing it to him, and we are. He's getting targets.
I think it was the fourth quarter when we missed him in the corner of the end zone that really would have solidified the game. And
Yep.
and Taylor threw it out about. That was the right throw if you're gonna miss.
Yep.
And that's one that he's struggled with almost, where he's underthrown people in the end zone. And I think he's kind of learned that if he's gonna miss, he should miss in an area that it's incomplete. But
Yep.
the play that he made down the left-hand sideline, where he went up for his 35, 40 yards or whatever, where he made that adjustment, and he is just a phenomenal football player. He is one of the top 10 wide receivers in all of football. He might be top 5. The things that he does. I mean, and how many quarterbacks has he had throwing him the ball since he's come into the league? So if you're giving me what dish is Terry?
What dish is he?
Mashed potatoes. I mean the best. The best side.
It has to be mashed potatoes.
Yeah, the
Well,
best
actually,
side
to be honest with you, mashed potatoes is to me number 3. Okay, meat. If you were to say meat's number 1, because for me meat's not even number 1 on the plate. It's the most important thing, because it's like the picture of Thanksgiving is a turkey, obviously. I like to make beef tenderloin. That's just me.
That should be everybody, by the way.
Everyone should be.
Turkey is so overrated. Everybody should be doing a beef tenderloin.
Yes. I've been trying to change it in my family for the last few years. I'm like slow playing it, but I say, you know what? Once a year, we're all gonna get together and and it's about food. That we just stop pretending. And Thanksgiving Thursday is about 2 things now in America: food and football. That's what Thursday is now. I don't think there's any denying it. And if you're going to be serious about it, let's be serious about it. And let's stop making this turkey.
All the people out there who are not serious, we got to do the turkey because that's traditional.
Mm-hmm.
They're not about food. You're not being about food. All you're doing is being about tradition and what you had 20 years ago.
But so here's what I'll say about that. I think we've come a long way in ways you can make the turkey, because like when I was a kid, I don't know if people were probably frying turkeys forever. I didn't know anyone that fried turkeys. But now they do, and it's something else. And you can put a whole bunch of stuff in it, and they use like these big hypodermic basters, and they're putting butter and garlic, and they're making it awesome. That's tasty, but it's not a beef tenderloin. And if you're and those big old turkeys, there's no way it costs that. I mean, and think about this. Yeah, so I think a big beef tenderloin might be a couple dollars extra than that big 18, 20-pound bird, but that thing has been pumped so full of whatever that makes it taste great, obviously.
Sure.
But
it's not going to taste as good as a beef tenderloin.
But so
There's nothing you could do to it.
There's nothing you can do to it. And okay, so beef tenderloin is still Jonathan Allen. Terry McLaurin, you got him at mashed potatoes. I'm putting him on as the stuffing/dressing. I know some people call it stuffing, some people call it dressing. I never got it when I was a kid. All I knew was the most delicious thing on the plate.
Sure. That's stuffing, by the way.
I call it stuffing too. I don't know what dressing means. I don't know. Dressing is something you put on a salad,
Correct.
which there's no room for on my Thanksgiving plate. And if it's at the end, if it's something salad like cucumber salad or spinach salad or potato salad, none of that has any room. There's not. I don't have any real estate
Is there
on my
a part
plate.
of the country or part of the world that calls it dressing?
Yeah,
Have
of
we-
course.
so-
Yeah, people call it. I hear
Not
people call
here.
it dressing all the time. I think you're right. I think it has to have been regional from some place, and it's like drifted into the rest of the universe. Because I hear people call it dressing, and I
needs to
don't like
stop.
it. I hate it. It's stuffing.
Nobody knows what that means. You can't. They say I'll bring the dressing to Thanksgiving dinner.
I'll be like, great, you're
you're
stopped
lost.
for some
Yeah.
ranch, a bottle of ranch
Some
and a
Hidden
bottle
Valley
of Vidalia.
Ranch.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Nice contribution. The South calls
stay
it
home.
dressing. You know what? I kind of don't want to mess with the South, to be honest with you, on this.
That's a good point.
Yeah, let's just. But I will say this about stuffing and or dressing: it's the most delicious thing on the plate.
Sure.
I love it to death,
All right, so-
and that's Terry McLaurin. So let me ask you another player on our team who is stirring the Kool-Aid, and we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball.
You know,
Payne.
so Deron Payne, it's the same. It's not as great as the Jonathan Allen thing because Jonathan Allen is such a fantastic. He's a better player and everything, but it's the same interior. So important to our defense. The play that he made to seal the game for us when he sacked Cam on 4th and 3 or whatever it was at the end of the game. I mean, that sealed the game. But he's just another undervalued. You don't see him too often because he's not, he's not in the backfield.
Yeah.
Again, contributing 13, 14 sacks. He's never going to be that type of player. He's just going to be a run eater. He's going to create havoc in the you can't run up the middle against that team.
No.
And he's going to do whatever it takes, to take a 1st and 10. You're going to hit the ball off up the middle. You're going to be 2nd and 9. You're not going to be 2nd and 3.
We are one of the better run defenses in the league. A part of that is because people have been so successful against us passing the ball. But I also think that's coming back a little bit as we make our way. And that's exactly what happened last season, if you recall. We stunk out loud, and then all of a sudden we had a crazy good defensive stretch that ended with us ranking in the top 2 or 3 amongst a variety of important categories.
So I don't know if now's the time to talk about it, but the same thing happened last year that the defense kind of adjusted slowly to Jack Del Rio's, strategies. And we have, William Jackson's a new player. Landon Collins is going to play a new position now.
Yep.
Is it one of those things
And
where...
Cam Curl's now on the field with Landon Collins.
Correct.
Who's
And Bobby McCain's out,
it's kind of like Cam Curl is engaged to Landon Collins' like ex-girlfriend, like a long-term ex-girlfriend.
I don't know what's happened with the... And I don't include
And everyone's
Bobby
cool with
McCain
it.
in that.
They're all friends. There was no bad breakup, but it's kind of like Landon Collins is looking over and be like, dang, like I was with her for a long time, and now he's getting married. They're gonna have a family. It's gonna be great, and we're all excited about that.
Sucks, man.
But Landon Collins, he's a big boy. He's fun. He's got someone new.
Yeah.
They're doing okay. I think we didn't answer the Payne question. I said cream corn. I love cream corn. I think we're getting into some vegetables now on the
Well,
plate.
I would go with stuffing. So I would
you haven't
just
said
flip-flop,
stuffing yet, yeah.
Yeah, I would flip-flop those two.
Because you have to have a vegetable on the plate. There's a couple of different ways to get that vegetable on the plate, and cream corn is a great way to do it. It's super tasty. It's very, very delicious, and hard to call it really that healthy because of all the butter and goodness. But man, it's so good. I don't know why we don't eat that. The other thing that kind of the theme that runs throughout is we eat so much good food on Thanksgiving Thursday, and then we just like forget about it for an entire year. I'm like, why? I know there's stovetop stuffing. I know there is. But people
That's
are
not
like,
the same thing.
people are cooking over a stove 364 other days a year, for the most part. Hardworking moms, hardworking dads. People are making meals. I don't know. Some people are making, fast meals. Some people are doing the gourmet thing. But, you're breaking some bread apart, and you cut up some onions and celery, and you put some seasonings in there, and you bake it. How is that not like a once-a-week thing?
Well,
I mean, we're not. It's not that we're eating healthy either. It's not
It
like
is in
it's
my
a healthy
house. I don't know
choice.
what you guys are doing over here.
We're doing it wrong apparently because I eat cream corn and homemade stuffing once a year,
Wow,
and
you
it makes
could
me
change
upset.
that.
Every single year I get upset about this.
Yeah. Well, if you have the same conversation every year, maybe you should just take a stand.
We're having the same conversation about a lot of things on this show over and over again.
We sure are.
All right, so you know what? We're not going to go through the whole roster, but I'm going to give you one more player before we go back to Taylor Heineke. I'm going to see if you can get who I think he is. So, what other player I'm going to give you? I'm going to Antonio Gibson. I love, but I'm going J.D. McKissick.
You know what? You started that, and I was thinking in the back of my head, if you were gonna say, Rhett, what's a wild card side dish that you enjoy on Thanksgiving? That's not a traditional, or no one's gonna name it in their top four, whatever that dish is gonna be. But the player that came to mind was J.D. McKissick, because he does everything you need him to do day in and day. Like it's almost like. He's the Taylor Heineke of running backs. An undrafted guy. He's bounced around. He's never really had, a solid role in it. But all he's done this year is gone out and
Not
produced.
just this year.
Yeah,
he was statistically speaking one of the top running backs in the league last year, based on the prowess of his passing game. I mean,
Right.
It was him and Alvin Kamara. I mean, which no one really clued in on in fantasy drafts. I try to tell everyone at the fantasy draft this past year. You're not going to get more value than J.D. McKissick. He was. And what's up, Robert Cohen? He was drafted at the end of drafts. I mean, he gets a ton of touches. He gets yards after contact, and when he rushes the ball, for whatever reason, which it's hard to imagine, he rushes for like 25 yards a carry. It's ridiculous. He's gone.
So I mean,
It's not 25, but it's close.
Yeah. Well, Gibson fumbled,
Yeah.
and they said, you know what? Take a seat for a little bit.
Mhm.
J.D. McKissick goes out. I think he rushed for 6 yards a carry, 6.5 yards a carry, or something like that on Sunday. He's catching the ball out of the back. It's almost like you go away from Gibson, and he goes out there and he's running for 7-8 yards, big runs. And it's not like he's breaking one for 32 yards and then the other ones he's getting stuffed or it seems like every single time he touches the ball, he's going for 5, 6, 7 yards.
He finds the right hole. He gets through it quickly, and he gets upfield, and he's fast. So he covers 5 or 6 yards quickly. If he sees daylight, he's getting that 5 or 6 yards. I love, which we've done it a couple times this year. I love coming out with him on 1st and 10 and the first play of the game, and giving him the ball on that one play. Even if you want to bring in Antonio Gibson on the very next play, that's fine. Defenses are keying on the pass when he's in the game. And it's opening up something, and J.D. McKissick is finding it. So what is he on the plate? Because you have to have J.D. McKissick now. I mean, that's dessert. Robert Cohen, he's going pecan pie with J.D.
Wow.
That does complete the meal. It does complete the meal. I do agree with that.
See, I'm a big roll guy though. Like rolls are so it's like they're there.
Got to be hot. Got to be warmed up.
Expect them to be there.
Get some butter on there so they melt.
And everybody has them, but no one really says, "Man, these are really good rolls." How did you?
You got to have good rolls. What are you talking about? Rolls got to have flavor.
I've never been at a Thanksgiving dinner and said, "Man, where'd you get these rolls?"
Really?
I've never asked that.
You got to come to American Thanksgiving.
I'm sure. I'm
And
sure guys have
I'm
great
rocking
rolls.
multiple different kinds of rolls because so you have the rolls that they're the frozen balls of dough, and you put them in the oven for 45, 50 minutes. Those are excellent, and I didn't even know what they're called. There's a bunch of different brands of them. You have your King's Hawaiian. They make a couple different kinds of rolls. Got to put those out there. And old school, best roll, the best roll. If you go to any grocery store in America, and you go over to the bread section, there's going to be a heat and serve. They're like 3/4 baked rolls, right? They're not fully cooked, which for a while I thought they pulled them because, everyone got their panties in a bunch about serving people uncooked shit.
Sure.
And now apparently that they're back, and you can also eat cookie dough now. They in fact tell you can, you should. It's part of a healthy, balanced diet. But these rolls, heat and serve. I don't even know, they're generic. There's no like brand. They're not like Nature's Harvest or H&S. I mean, they're just heat and serve. And they come in a little white. They come in a bag with a little white Brown and Serve. Thank you, Robert Cohen. Brown and Serve. Brown and Serve. They're called Brown and Serve. They come in, it's a like tiny little cheap piece of cardboard tray, and you take them out of this bag. You put them in the oven for not even that long, just enough to brown the tops. And they come out and they're tiny, and you eat them in 2 bites, and they're the greatest things I've ever had. And again, another thing that just ground my gears for years. When we got married, not we, my wife and I, we didn't. Brett and I
We're
aren't
not
married
married.
officially.
Domestic partnership.
We were like, she was like, we're making a list for the grocery. I'll never forget. We're making a list for the grocery. She's like, what do you want? And I'm thinking, we need like what are the essentials you need? Like cereal, milk, eggs, blah blah blah. And I thought to myself, and I was like, get some Brown and Serve rolls. She was like, what are you talking about, Brown and Serve rolls? And I had to tell her the whole story. I just told you, go to the section, it'll be there. They're not marked. There's going to be like a random tray. What's up, E.O. Anderson? Brown and Serve rolls. That's what we're talking about right now. Put them in the oven. And she was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like what we eat on Thanksgiving? And I was like, yes. They're not for Thanksgiving anymore. We're just that's going to have to, we got to carry this shit throughout the entire year. That's the best. Brown and Serve. And you know what? If you want to make J.D. McKissick a Brown and Serve roll, I'll be all about it. Let's just move over to Taylor Heineke. You made him the turkey.
Of course I did.
I'm making him the gravy. And because gravy goes on everything. You make your plate, all of it. Brussels sprouts, you got your rolls, your stuffing, your corn, your turkey, or whatever you're going to, and then you a ladle full of that brown gravy, and you just pour it all over the entire plate.
Oddly specific.
I mean, I'm starting to realize now why we only do this once a year. I don't know. I don't think I could eat this plate of food more than once a year now that I'm thinking about the way I do it. But the gravy goes on and all. You have to have
Well, it's the quarterback position, right?
Yeah.
So if you didn't have the gravy, there's no meal, right? So that makes sense to me. The way that he played on Sunday, though, was just. I don't know if he was the highest rated quarterback in the league on Sunday. Maybe there's one other quarterback, but he played so well that you start to think. Like we did
all right,
last
so
year.
you start to think. Hold on, before we start to think
do we
that.
have something?
Before we think that, I want the comment by Robert Cohen is great. By itself, not worth much, but the meal is nothing without it. That's the brown gravy comment. I love that too because, you right now, if he were to roll in with his duffel bag and show up on the sidelines, it would be like white man can't jump style. Woody Harrelson on the sideline. No one's picking him, and he's like doing his calisthenics and stretches, and then all of a sudden he shows up and we're like, whoa, this guy, he's got game. Now let's start to think. What we were talking about, starting to think. So he started 11 games now in his entire career?
Correct.
11 games he started. He's showing on a variety of things. First and foremost, he belongs in the NFL, and he's a starter. Like those two things, because be the gruff, hard judging, kind of negative Nelly quarterback guy, if you want to, out here, and say, he's not good enough to be our franchise guy. And a lot of people say that. He is, and if you all you got to do is just spend a little bit of time watching the rest of the league, a little bit of time looking at, just look at every quarterback who played just this one previous week alone. Oh, and by the way, watch on Thursday who Detroit rolls out onto the field. You're going to see some names that you have never heard of, I guarantee you, or people you didn't know were in the league. The Detroit-Chicago game is about to be an example for the whole wide world to see about why Taylor Heineke.
It's going to make a lot of money.
He's making himself a ton of money. So, so he's a starter in the NFL, belongs as a starter. He's going to be in the league for a while. He's going to make he's making money by the second, and let's play it a couple steps forward. We have him locked down for next year for a very, very affordable $2 million. Guarantee you that contract gets redone to push it out a little further because you're not trying to get rid of Taylor Heineke. I think that he's a luxury on a variety of fronts. He can come if he stays healthy and plays like this. He'll come in next season as the unquestioned starter.
You think so?
Of course, he should be, and that still doesn't preclude you from drafting a guy.
Right.
And you don't have to waste a first-round pick on a guy you're not sure is a franchise quarterback. You can pick up a guy in the second or third, and he doesn't have to play. That's the key to life in the NFL. Not forcing a 22-year-old kid under center in week 1 because you're paying him too much. You've invested in him too much. You don't have anything else behind him or in front of him. So, I mean, I don't understand. People are like, well, if you have Taylor Heineke, why would you waste a draft pick? You're not wasting a draft pick. The Green Bay Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre. The 49ers picked up Steve Young when they had Joe Montana. This happens all the time. I mean, the best teams in the league are always drafting quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks. You have to be in that business in this league. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the business of winning games very long.
Well, it puts us in a position where, depending how many games we win, if we're drafting 13th, 17th, whatever it is, you're not going to be in a position where you can either mortgage the future or you take somebody who is most likely a second or third or fourth round talent and having to reach to take somebody in that 15, 16, 17 range or whatever. You can say, you know what, we have a guy who can win us games, and so we don't need to, if somebody is there and we like him, we can take him. If not, it's not a necessary move that's going to set our franchise back.
No,
because you're reaching.
I mean, we have needs. We have needs, more needs than just quarterback. Now, quarterback is generically the greatest need of a team. You can't win
in any sport.
You have to have a quarterback. And I think the argument really becomes, do we have a quarterback? And I don't understand how people are answering that question. No. It no longer makes sense to me. It no longer holds water. People will say, yeah, well, we're 4-6. And I'll be like, yeah, but, he's got 11 starts. The people who are saying we don't have a quarterback, we're only 4-6. They're willing to bring in a kid and turn the keys over to him and willing to be a loser next year with him. And they forget that that's exactly what we're doing now. We have a guy who's never started before. This is the first time he's been a starter. He's starting his 11th game as a pro, and he's clearly getting better. We're clearly getting better with him. We're doing exactly with Taylor Heineke what we would do with any quarterback that we brought in out of the draft or off the heap of players. We're doing exactly with him, and we're not spending any money doing it. So, the only thing, if you have a chance to get Trevor Lawrence, fair enough, go get Trevor Lawrence. But there's no Trevor Lawrence in this draft, at least that anyone is talking about. And if we're right now we're slated to pick in the top 10. I hope that changes. I really do. I know people are like, hey, get the best pick. In the top 10,
I hate that mindset.
I hate it too.
I hate it.
I hate it, and we don't do that here. But you're going to be tempted to take like a Matt Corral or or just any of these guys, in the top 10 when we'd be doing so much better if we brought in like a top 10 linebacker, or. Sure. Or a top 10 offensive lineman, or anybody else who's going to play every single down. And Taylor Heineke can do what he does. And in the second and third round, if there's a guy there, great. Because you know what? If Heineke's healthy, no matter who we draft, they're not going to play.
Here's the difficult thing for me about.
Oh, I love people who love our draft talk. This isn't a draft talk. This is
we'll get
a Heineke talk.
The difficult thing is, okay, he is outplaying number 1 overall picks. He's outplaying Jared Goff. He's outplaying Baker Mayfield right now.
You take that back. You know how I feel about Baker Mayfield. He's a national treasure.
The thing that
best commercials ever.
That makes Tyler Heineke so polarizing is that he was an undrafted guy. So even when he plays really well, he's just never the name. He's never the oh, this is what we always thought he could be. Like everybody thinks he's just playing above who he is because he was undrafted, because no one ever pictured him doing this, these types of things.
Yep.
Even though he's playing better than all those guys who were drafted in the first round, in the top 5 of the draft. The other thing about Taylor Heineke is just who can he be?
Well, we still don't know. I mean, he still has ceiling. He still has upside.
Because he's been in different systems. He's been in the league for a long time, right? He's not. You can't compare him to say, oh, he's outplaying Zach Wilson. Well, Zach Wilson has been in the league for a few months, and he's not playing. So,
I'll even grant. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if he's been in the league for this long and he's learned how to become a professional, which other rookies kind of struggle with that transition, where can he go?
So where can he go? First and foremost, everyone wants to talk about floor and ceiling, the high floor, low ceiling, the low floor, high ceiling, the whatever. At this point in time, all we know for sure is he has a really high floor. And that's one of the best things you can ask for in a quarterback. His floor is super high. He's making plays with his legs. He's making plays with his head. He's progressing from one guy to the next guy to the next guy. And whether you love his arm or not, he is making plays with his arm. So baseline, high floor. Anyone who wants to tell me he has a low ceiling, I'm not listening, because you don't know. He started 11 games. And this team is in full rebuild scenario. We're super young. We're super not very smart just quite yet. And all these players are growing together. And every single time we do something well, whether it's Heineke or not, they're all doing it together. They're coming along together. I think high floor is a great start, and there's nobody who's going to convince me that he has a low ceiling. I find that preposterous.
Well, that's what I struggle with, because the criticism against him is, he holds the ball too long. He's taken sacks in some of the games where you just, he's taken too. Are those things that's just who he is because he's, a much more experienced professional than some of the younger guys who have only had 11 starts? Or is that something that, even though he's been in the league for a while, he's only been a starter for 11 games. That, okay, now that I've been on the field, in game action, I can improve on these things. That's where I'm trying to figure out who he is.
Robert Cohen said that his ceiling is Doug Flutie. I don't like that, but here's what I'll say about Doug Flutie. He was in the league. He played professional football for over a decade. I mean, obviously, he played for a bunch of teams. He bounced around in the CFL and the NFL. I get it. I will argue that Doug Flutie, if he came out of college today at his size, he's 5'10", Doug Flutie is a much more effective quarterback in today's NFL than he was when he came out in 1985. Because in 1985, the league was built a whole lot differently. The rules were different. The game was different. Offense was different. The way offense is right now, Doug Flutie is... And I didn't bring up Doug Flutie. Robert Cohen did. If Doug Flutie came into the league today, I think he is he's a Pro Bowler, multiple year Pro Bowler. Probably, if he stays healthy, he probably has a very long and illustrious career running an offense in this league for some savvy, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, Kyle Shanahan type. And if that's what you think his ceiling is, then we're on the same page, because, again, in today's NFL, a 5'10", 6-foot quarterback who knows how to throw it and is smart can win.
Right. I mean, I've heard Tony Romo. I've heard people say Tony Romo. I think he's a more athletic version. But I mean, if that's if that's a guy who he can become, that's a fantastic quarterback.
And remember how he got the job. He was not supposed to be anything for Bill Parcells' Cowboys. Wasn't it Bledsoe?
Yep.
So Bledsoe comes into camp as the man, and in the third preseason game, Parcells says, "I'm going to start Romo and play him the entire game." It was like the entire game he played, just to see. And based on that one game, Parcells was like, "Yep, he's going to be our guy." And of course, Bill Parcells knows a thing or two about football, even though obviously as an old school Redskins fan, I hate him because he coached the Giants and the Cowboys. Sure. But he knows what he's talking about when it comes to quarterbacks. And if you want to compare Heineke and Romo, I'll love that all day.
I mean, that would be a fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
if you found a Tony Romo, I mean, you won the lottery.
Yeah.
And that's what teams, who have success, a lot of them just they find somebody who then goes on to become, a franchise type quarterback. Not everybody drafts somebody number 1 overall and then they play for 16 years,
No.
and you'll win 3 championships.
No, but you get a guy who has some pedigree. I mean, there's a reason why you're 6'4" prototype Justin Herberts of the world. Even though people passed on him, he was still a first rounder, still prototype size, prototype arm, prototype athlete. There's a reason why the guys like that are going to project as starters, and you're going to have a good rate of success. And then you're going to be able to draft a left tackle like Rashawn Slater and start building around him, and get Austin Eckler and blah blah blah. But if Justin Herbert was available like right this second, yeah, of course you say, we'll take Justin Herbert for 10 years, but he's not. And in order to get a Justin Herbert, you have to be the team that drafts him, and everyone is like, maybe he did okay. Maybe he wasn't. By the way, he wasn't the starter on that team. Tyrod Taylor was. It took a trainer to puncture his lung with a needle in the preseason for Herbert to even get a chance to be the starter on that team right away. Now he probably would have ultimately given it, but he got those valuable reps super early in his career that he was not going to get otherwise. So it's shocking how few good quarterbacks there are. There's 32 teams, and there's not 32 really great quarterbacks.
Hardest job in the world.
And so, and every year in college, we all watch on Saturday, and we all are like, oh man, that guy's awesome. Caleb Williams this, and Matt Corral that, and the kid Pickett, and the kid from North Carolina, Hal, and all these other guys, and you're like, oh man, oh yeah, they're going to be good. Who freaking knows? Nobody knows. And there's enough of those, even if there's like 6 of those guys, 5 or 6 of those guys every single year. It doesn't take long to realize there's half the league is led by guys who've been around for more than 5 or 6 years, and therefore that tells you that we're not cycling in 5 stud quarterbacks every single year. There's 5 stud quarterbacks certainly aren't becoming studs out of the gate every single year. So the Taylor Heineke's of the world, it does come down to opportunity, and people are going to size them up. They're going to use their eyeballs, and they're going to say, eye test, fail. We'll keep you on, and there'll be practice legends. And it takes, again, Heineke wasn't our starter. It took a 57-year-old quarterback going down in the first game for him to get a chance to be our starter. And so that's just the way it happens in this league. And you find a guy, and yes, he's making a lot of money, but he's not going to get Pat Mahomes money. He's not going to get Deshaun Watson money. If and when we resign him, and let's say we extend him for like 2 years, that's going to be like probably as much or less than the money we would have been willing to give Kirk Cousins 5 years ago when we were trying to pay him like 18 or 19 million bucks a year, and it would have looked like a genius deal, and we didn't do it. If Taylor Heineke stays healthy and plays like he's playing right now, I'll be willing to bet money that he gets like a $15 to $16 million a year contract extension for like two years.
Wow.
And that's not a lot of money in quarterback money.
Of course it's not.
And if we are able to pull that off, and then you know what, guarantee it, because it's not a lot of money.
No.
And then guess who gets paid in that time frame? Terry McLaurin. Maybe you're able to keep Young and Sweat or Young and Payne. And obviously, we're not going to be able to keep all of them. Maybe you're able to convince Sheriff to stick around and get him the money you want to get him.
But if Taylor Heineke, if he plays the way he has played, the last 2 games, and he's had some bad games and such, but if you can get a guy like him for that $10, $12, $14 million range, you have freed up so much money.
Yeah.
To sign guys who you need to have on a team, because if you if you're a team that has a quarterback that you're paying $30 million, 40, 30, whatever that number is, and they are not, Hall of Fame type players, your team is, you're not going to win.
No.
You can't. You need to be able to say, all right, you know what? If I can have Taylor Heineke for $14 million, $13 million a year, and then I can pay Terry, and I can pay, to keep Sweat, and Payne and Allen and Chase. Obviously, you're not going to be able to keep all of them, but to be able to spread that money to other positions, that's how winning franchises continue to win.
Got more passing yards than Justin Fields, got more passing yards than Zach Wilson, got more passing yards than Colt McCoy. I mean, but he's got more passing yards than Trey Lance. Obviously, Trey Lance hasn't played a whole lot. He's 16th in the league in overall passing yards. That's great. You know, and in terms of average yards per pass, you know, you're talking about another middle of the pack. He's 16th there as well. He's got 10 games under his belt for this season. And when you want to talk about completion percentage, he's right in the middle of the pack once again, 17. So middle of the pack, but that's top 16, top 17 guys in this league on those key statistics. That's not just good enough. That's what you have to have. For everything else to work, you got to have a guy in that top 16, top 17 guys.
But look at the other guys in the top, in the top half. If you're paying a guy $32 million, if you're paying Matt Ryan money, to have somebody who's going to be a middle of the pack guy as a quarterback, you're going to lose.
Oh, and that doesn't. I mean, you're talking about Derrick Henry is 1 for 1. Dante Pettis is 1 for 1. So you're talking about a couple guys who are pushing him to the middle. I mean, he's really 15th, 16th, in some of these. And man, here, my biggest fear about Taylor Heinicke is that we have him locked in for next year. We got him, and so if we rip that next year up and give him a 2-year extension.
What would you do right now if you're the Washington football team?
So, because people want to be...
You don't want to get too high after 2 games that he's played well.
So, all right. So if I'm Jason Wright or Marty or Martin, any of these guys, I would absolutely extend him right now. And I would rip up next year, and I would guarantee him like 2 years at $15 million a year just to see if he would take it. Because here's the thing, people are gonna be like, well, is that really that smart? Well, I think it is. Think about it this way, we paid Alex Smith like almost $70 million to not play football for us. We've paid a bunch of players in the last 10 years tens of millions of dollars to not do anything positive for our organization. For me, like, if you can lock him up for another 2 years, I'm guaranteeing him his salary for 2 years. He's 28 years old. Get me to his age 30 season. Give me a window of time where I can maybe develop another asset at the quarterback position, and spend my money on the rest of the team in a wise way. Because my big fear is that we don't do it, and then we get in. There's 15. Maybe there's not 15 teams, but there's gonna be
enough.
There's gonna be like 8 to 10 teams whose general managers are gonna look at Taylor Heinicke and think of him as an upgrader over what they have, and then the money starts to get stupid. Bidding wars over quarterbacks are the worst game in the world to play. You can't. Everyone loses. The person who wins loses the most. You can't get a bidding war for a quarterback.
The person who wins the most is the agent. But.
That's true. and getting into a bidding war over Taylor Heinicke would suck.
But unless you think that you can honestly, attract an Aaron Rodgers or something that you're going to have to pay a ton of money, so you can't have a backup who's making 15. I mean, unless you really think that you're in that, category, it makes perfect sense because if you pay him over the next 2 years $15 million per year, you're going to be in the business of drafting somebody, whatever round that is.
100%.
And then you're paying somebody pennies, a rookie.
And so you have 2 quarterbacks for like $16 million.
Yeah, that's how good teams do it.
And the importance of doing it now, to me, is completely predicated on playing, and that's this very conservative, very safe way to do it. And that's not me saying we need to lock up Taylor Heinicke right this very second. We have to. The entire future of our organization depends on us signing Taylor Heinicke. It doesn't. But the entire future of us being able to have the flexibility to do other things relies on us not overpaying a quarterback.
Correct.
And I mean, why wouldn't you want Taylor Heinicke to be your guy for another couple years? And even if I don't know. I think we should do it right now. I don't think it's a bad move. I like to. It's a gamble. I mean, we're gambling guys. You got to be willing to take some risk. There's no risk-free moves if you're waiting until the last second to do it. If you're waiting until after the season to do it, if you're waiting until after next season to do it, it's too late.
Here's the last thing I'll say about Taylor. And 2 weeks ago, people were begging to give Kyle Allen a shot after some of the games that Taylor had played. They were waiting for, okay, we've seen what this guy can do. It's not enough. Let's give Kyle Allen a shot, right? And then 2 weeks later, everyone's saying, Kyle Allen, he doesn't need to play.
Does not need to play.
It's a week-to-week league sometimes where a guy goes out and has a bad game and then comes back and has a good game and then goes out and has a great game. And then all of a sudden it's, let's lock him up for the next 2 years. Well, you got to be even-keeled, When he's not playing well, you got to say, okay, let's settle down. He can play better. When he plays really well, you say, okay, that's, against Carolina, that was probably his best game that he's ever played. But if you're comfortable saying, okay, I know who the real Taylor Heineke is, then you give him that deal.
Well, I say you give it to him because if you free yourself from the burden of being forced to overspend either in the draft or in free agency on a quarterback, now you can, in the first round, you can draft a left tackle in the top 10 if that's where you draft, or a guard in the middle to bottom of the first round. And every dollar invested in the offensive line is a dollar invested in whoever's playing quarterback for you. And if you've already given this guy a season's worth of starts and he's showing you that he can play in this league, then yeah, you've got to. I think people are getting hung up on some form of like unsexiness about Taylor Heineke because he's not the flashy Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers guy. And I get it, but that's not how football games are won. That's not how they're played. That's not how they're won. Yeah, if you have All-Pro, Hall of Fame bound quarterback, great, good for you. I don't think that we do, but I think that we have All-Pro, Hall of Fame bound players on the roster, and I think that we can add more around a guy like Taylor Heineke. And weren't you the one who told me this? No team has ever won it, except for Kansas City, I think. No team has ever won a Super Bowl with a quarterback who was making more than 15 or 20% of the salary cap, something like that, right?
Yep.
I mean, Pat Mahomes, I think
he may have topped that.
But he might have won that on his rookie deal still.
Correct.
He played in the Super Bowl and lost.
Well, yeah. I mean, last year he
last year would have been
he lost.
So I think that is a stat that's going to fall down because you're starting to see. I mean, the quarterbacks make all the money, and you're going to get into a game where it's like Justin Herbert versus Trey Lance in 5 years, and they're both. But
who knows?
But no, it's never happened before. I believe that's a fact that it's never happened before. So we're 13%. Greg Martin is saying, yeah. So
but look at some of the teams that have rewarded their quarterbacks after going out and being so successful.
Nick Foles?
Yeah.
Of course, he did win the Super Bowl.
Correct. Russell Wilson, though. I mean, look how he's playing.
Well,
their defense.
The guy that everyone thought we should have made a run at for $35 million a year.
Seattle's defense. I mean, that was their core. That was what they were known for. That's horrible now.
Well, we're going to see him. By the way, we are favored by a point now on Monday night.
We should be.
We should be. I'm more concerned about the Eagles than I am the Seahawks.
Yeah. Well, I didn't watch the Eagles as closely as I watched the Seahawks. Just as it turned out. I mean, Jalen Hurts, are you really that concerned about Jalen Hurts?
I said it before the season, and again, I'm thinking in terms of fantasy.
He's a great
football.
fantasy quarterback.
Not
how good of an actual quarterback is.
Okay, so I do think about it in terms of fantasy football. I understand that's also not how real football is won and lost. But I look at the numbers and the small sample size that he put on us before the season. He was Lamar Jackson, and there's only one real Lamar Jackson But when you look at what Jalen Hurts was capable of doing, and he was starting to show that he could make throws, he's to me he's a classic example of a player that one of my rival fan bases, at least didn't until recently, truly and properly appreciate. Like, I always got mad at Cowboys fans and be like, why are you complaining about Tony Romo? Do you realize like how what we would kill to have a quarterback of his caliber here in Washington? And I would not trade Taylor Heineke for Jalen Hurts because I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. But Jalen Hurts, he can play football, and I have a hard time hearing some of the things people say. I don't think he's a fraud, Greg Martin. I do not think Jalen Hurts is a fraud. I think he's beatable. I don't think he's like, I don't think he's not Pat Mahomes. He's not the second coming. And ultimately, he's not Lamar Jackson either. But I think that he is someone that makes me a little bit antsy.
Sure.
I mean
he's a good
a
football
90-year-old
player.
Cam Newton just ran all over us.
Okay. He's a good football. I have a few things to say about Cam before we sign off. He's a good football player, but there's no way that I go into either of those games, whether we're playing in D.C. or we're playing in Philadelphia, and think, well, this is a loss. There's no way that we can overcome Jalen Hurts.
Dude, wouldn't you say the same thing about Daniel Jones? And yet he is a all-time, all-universe quarterback against us, except for one game.
Correct. Yeah, I would say the same thing about him, but Jalen Hurts does not scare me.
All right. Listen, I'm just saying I'm more worried about the Eagles than the Seahawks. That said, the Seahawks are on our plate right now. I call it the long goodbye. 3 words, the long goodbye. That's when you go from Sunday night, let's go from a Sunday game through the Thanksgiving holiday and then play on Monday night. It's a slog. We've done this a couple times, and I was trying to remember the last time it was because you play on Sunday, and it's great, and then the week, week's over, you get some Monday Night Football. But because of the holiday, it really breaks things up. You have a full day of football and turkey.
I can't wait.
And that's going to feel like football Sunday, right? But you're not there yet. Then you get to the weekend, and you still have a full slate of football all day, all into the night on Sunday, and then you're like, oh man, and we still haven't played.
When does my team
play? And then you get to Monday, the Monday night, and so now you've been eating leftovers for 3 days. You're still taking those turkey tryptophan naps. You're still heating up stuffing and mashed potatoes and cream corn and
rolls.
and rolls, so many rolls. And so by the time we get to Monday night, I feel like it's gonna feel like we haven't played. It'll feel like we had a bye.
Sure.
The long goodbye. But it's good because as are you, I am a football junkie, sports junkie really. But football, I watch them all. I watch every game that there is. As you can see here, we have a setup to make sure that we don't miss any games. I'll watch every single one of them, even the terrible, terrible ties between Detroit and Pittsburgh. I watched that game.
Is Detroit playing on Thanksgiving again?
Some version of the Detroit line. Dude, I'm telling you. So someone, I think it was Robert Cohen, someone on the board already said, Detroit's going to win. I know guys who are, putting, the deed to their house on this game. And I'm trying to understand why. Now, I know Chicago, by the way, that game might be off the board right now. Someone please tell me if you can still bet on this game. Because they announced today that Nagy's getting fired after the game in Chicago. Which is the weirdest thing ever. They're like, we're not firing you. By the way, you're fired on Friday. I'm like, but you still got to show up to work for the next 4 days. There's we've seen that show before because if you recall, Dave Campo was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and he came in to play a shitty Washington Redskins team, and everyone in the world knew he was getting fired, and they laid the biggest egg on, and we beat him. If a coach is on his way out the door, I just don't understand how that works. And it's Thanksgiving, and no one's going to give a crap, and it's against Detroit, who I don't think, and Jared Goff's not playing.
What an awful game.
They're going to throw no-name quarterbacks out there, and it's going
to... Do you know who it is? Do you know who's playing for Detroit?
Boyle?
Yeah,
Bly?
I would give you
Bly?
$100 right now if you could name his first and last name.
I want to say, I'm gonna say Tim Boyle. I don't even.
Tim.
Is Tim Boyle a name? Tim Boyle. Somebody named Blau or Blauf, Blough. Danny Blau. I don't know what his first name is. Those are the two guys
Versus Andy Dalton, right?
versus Andy Dalton. Until he gets hurt
Oh, happy
in this
Thanksgiving,
game.
everybody.
Oh yeah. Don't worry. That is like you wonder like why people drink heavily on Thanksgiving, and this game is going to be a case study in the perfect amount of whiskey and football to make that game fun. We're gonna get to the answer. Bears -3. That can't be true. I mean, that's the thing. You're running into a situation where something has to give. 0-8-1, 0-9-1.
If you're gambling on that game, that's just I need something
Yeah,
to
but
do.
wait.
Nobody can have an angle on this.
All right,
game.
so I don't have any interest in this game yet, but I'm really getting close to doing it because a variety of factors. One, I'm watching the game. I'm going to be watching the game.
Sure.
Two, I'm starting to really talk myself into the idea that these quarterbacks that no one ever has heard of in their entire life, who are about to play quarterback on Thanksgiving against the Chicago Bears on Thursday, might have something. This game is going to suck out loud, or conversely, it could be like the greatest football spectacle we've ever seen. I'm not sure. I don't know. I have to watch to find out.
It's probably the former.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the greatest football game of all time.
Hey, you don't know how much whiskey I'm going to be drinking. It might be the
It might
greatest
be.
football game I've ever seen in my
Might be
entire
your
life.
greatest football game.
Give me your camp stuff before we get out of here.
I just want.
Someone needs to like the cream corn.
I hate Cam Newton so much.
Yeah,
The
I knew
the
that
me
about you.
show. I mean, I guess I was ready for it, but from the opening ceremony where he came out and just spent all the time on himself, and then when he scored that and he ran all the way to the 50-yard line and just pounded the ball right on the Panthers logo, and we're trying to enforce
With the
these-
Superman theme
we're
playing in the
trying to
background.
enforce the taunting or whatever. I mean,
I think
it's
if you're
it's so tired. I am so tired of that guy. It's not about you.
So, I always liked him because, and my tune has changed. I'll tell you the end of the story first. I don't like him now, but I always liked him because he was like the big kid who played physical, and I like that. I hate it when like a guy has the tools to do something physically, and then he just doesn't. Like,
Right.
and we can go down that list. In this league, trust me,
Yeah.
we can go down that list all day long with people who you think should have been great because of how athletic and strong and big and fast they were, and they weren't. Cam Newton, what I can say about him is he had a skill set and he made it, and he absolutely made it work. Yeah, he's an egomaniac. Yeah, he's in it for himself. I mean, his number's number one. There's nothing, but it's like there's nothing masked or hidden about it. I've totally lost him. I'm lost on him because I do think, he's arrogant. But I enjoy, like when I talk about fantasy football and Madden. Like these,
Sure.
these are real things. And they matter on Sundays. They don't. I know. But if you're a coach or a coordinator and you draw up plays, get the big kid the ball. And one thing we've done a terrible job here in Washington, for a very long time is A, get the right big kid, and B, succeed by giving him the ball or putting him in a position to succeed. We've sucked at that. And so I at least appreciated Cam Newton for being the big kid who got it done. There wasn't a 4th and 1 that weren't ever going to not convert. I love watching him bowl over cornerbacks and safeties and linebackers for that matter. But yeah, his show's tired.
Well, all I'll say is this. If I'm Christian McCaffrey and I have only 12 or 13 touches, I don't know what the final number was for him on Sunday, and I see Cam Newton running to the 50-yard line, pounding a football down, and then losing a game, I'm just like, I can't play with this guy.
But I know. Oh yeah, if you're a player on that team, and also he's not a next level passer. Like
Well, that's for certain.
But I think he's clearly broken down. You can't play his style of football for this many years and not be broken down and not see a deterioration in like core skill. I mean, Belichick, if he could play halfway decently, he'd still be in New England, and he's
Sure.
not. And then finally, yes, he's to blame for his actions, and yes, he has to be accountable for his terribleness. But he's also the kid who has never had anyone tell him he's anything but how great he is.
Correct.
For his entire life. And that's not to make an excuse for Cam Newton. He's a smart guy, a very smart guy. I believe that. I feel like he's been a pretty smart individual, but he's been surrounded by people who have been telling him how great he is literally his entire life. And there's something like kind of dirty and grimy and terrible about that. And he's a byproduct of that. And that doesn't free him from responsibility for being that guy. But I do feel it is important to recognize that because there are human beings who get told how great they are their entire life and they don't turn out as arrogant as Cam Newton.
Right.
But I sometimes I wonder how.
I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong and I'm off base on this, but as a Panthers fan, if I'm a Panthers fan and I see they bring him back, I almost feel used. Like,
Oh yeah.
you brought this guy back. Everyone got so hyped up. It's Cam Newton. He's back. He's not going to win.
No.
And so it's just kind of like, all right, well, we sold a bunch of tickets on his his homecoming, his reunion, whatever, but you didn't upgrade the roster the way you could have. I watched that game and I saw him.
You know what lost it for me? He wasn't looking for Ron Rivera at the end of the game. Now that was on TV at the end. Now
No, he was not.
he wasn't looking for Ron Rivera. Now he got a good hug in with him, and it was a nice little moment. But he almost passed Ron Rivera right by. That's unforgivable.
Sure. No,
Because Ron Rivera had to reach back and grab
that
him.
was going to happen.
I know, but
I
I
knew that
hate
was
it.
gonna
I
happen.
hate it. You don't big time Ron Rivera,
Certainly don't.
and so
Especially after you lose and you're not. I mean, he's a backup level.
and then and which kind of circles us all the way back. These teams who thought they were better than than they are, and now they're relying on the Cam Newton types of quarterbacks in the world. So, and the best part about it is we have the rest of that quarterback room here with Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke. So, but I think we got the better part of it. Score prediction for Monday night.
I think we put points on them for sure. I think we put. I think we put 31.
Okay.
I would say 31-23 Skins. I think we score on them, and I'm not scared about the Russell Wilson that exists 6 days from now. I don't think he is what we've seen for the past few years. I think their defense is suspect. I think that they don't know how to get Tyler Lockett the ball right now. And DK Metcalf. I mean, I think our secondary is figuring things out. I think we win by 8 points. I'd say 31-23.
All right, so you're gonna get a replay of some for me things I've said over and over again in the last few years. I never was an anti-Seattle guy because in the past I liked Pete Carroll. I liked that defense. I loved Russell Wilson. But then all of a sudden, we started getting matched up with them in the playoffs on a regular basis.
Yep.
And we lost.
Every time.
Every single time.
Yep.
And that started to eat at me. It absolutely colored, my Seattle Seahawk, feelings. We haven't played well against them. Russell Wilson. So the one thing about Russell Wilson is that he doesn't just have, our number. He's been good against a lot of teams for a long time. So I'm comforted a little bit in the fact that this isn't like a Daniel Jones situation where we're going up against a guy that just somehow magically plays well against us.
The one team.
The one team, yeah. Russell Wilson has been doing it against a lot of teams for a long time. So I don't have a complex about Russell Wilson. I also think we're going to score points on them. I think that we will get over 30 points. I'm gonna say that we get 2 field goals out of Sly, so I'm going 34. And I think our defense holds them. I think it's going to be 20 or less. I'll say 34-20, but I wouldn't be
Wow.
surprised to see it 34-17.
Wow.
And
That's big.
this one's predicated in, obviously turnovers, penalties, and stupid whatevers.
Sure.
But we also have shot ourselves in the foot in against our, we've also been our own worst enemy against Seattle. Like there's some teams we play where things go, like when we played Tampa Bay last week. Like it made me think about that playoff game last year. We had a good feeling in our pits of our stomachs in that playoff game against the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
And the same thing again this way because things went our way. Things bounced our way, and we were just like in the game. That hasn't been. I haven't felt like that against Seattle a lot, and that has nothing to do with Russell Wilson specifically, or Pete Carroll, or any of these guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing us not make the kinds of mistakes. First of all, that prevents you from winning, but second of all, that just seem to happen against Seattle on Monday Night Football. Another thing.
Well, that's the other,
I know.
That's the one thing that we don't really consider how we play on primetime.
I'm willing to. Now I'm willing to let this group slide a little bit on that terribleness, because it was a thing for so long, and we're 4-6. We're going and we have a team coming from the West Coast, as far away as you could come for the most part, all the way here. That all these things go our way, all those things kind of shake out our way. I think that I'm willing to let these guys chart a new course in primetime. And we've had some good primetime games, with Ron Rivera and this group. So I'm less concerned about that than I am about us, coughing the ball up. I mean, like Antonio Gibson can't cough the ball up in the red
No,
zone.
he cannot.
You know what I mean? Like, Taylor Heineke can't, make a misguided, decision, and throw it right at a defensive back. They're still good enough to beat a team who does that stuff. So, 34, let's just say 34-17.
Wow.
34-17.
I would be so
And
pumped.
that's the way, to me, that's the way this season is going. And this isn't us beating, the Rams or...
Well, we just beat the Bucs.
Cardinals.
What do you mean?
No. Well, I have Rams and Cardinals ahead of the Bucs.
Okay.
I'm just saying this isn't us shocking the world by any stretch, but I think this is us trending in the right direction.
That's all we can ask for at this point.
Yes, and that equals wins. And guess what? We're still we win this game. We're still sub 500. We're still just in the hunt. So we got
with
a lot
an
of work
extra
to do.
wild card, I mean, sub 500 is not a bad place to be after 11 games with that third wild card and 5 division games left.
And
You got a lot of opportunities.
we need the Raiders to absolutely show up on Thursday for 2 reasons. One, take care of business against Dallas on Thanksgiving. That helps.
I would love to watch that.
And then we're not facing the Raiders coming off a loss. Not that matters that much, but I just don't want to. They're gonna have a mini bye coming on the Thursday game. So, all right, well,
Can I add one parting
yeah,
thought?
please.
Offensive line. We didn't talk about offensive line.
No,
They are
yeah,
playing their asses off.
they sure are, and there's a lot of them playing.
It's
They're
a
cycling in and out.
no-name group. They're cycling.
Sheriff's back in there.
It's just, it's I can't even remember our offensive lines right now. It's escaping me. They are playing
That's right.
so well,
Yep.
and they are, just a group of guys that don't get a lot of recognition. Not a lot of names out there. Sheriff, obviously, but not a lot of household. They are playing so well.
Yep.
So they're not listening right now, but if you are,
They're listening.
they're listening. Good. You guys deserve some credit.
Have some turkey. You deserve it. Turkeys are for
Some
winners.
Chipotle. I think I was reading some comments about some of the favorite meals for some of the offensive linemen.
Chipotle?
Chipotle.
Oh, count me out, man.
Imagine being a professional athlete. Double meat Chipotle.
I just don't think it's good.
Wow.
People love it, but I'm Popeyes, chicken nuggets, and and a side of chicken sandwich.
So who's your dessert, by the way? You're talking about all the dishes on Thanksgiving.
I have a name in mind, and he deserves to have his same name said, at least in our show, more often. Tress Way is absolutely the man. Now, I understand. I think DeAndre Carter is someone who's deserving of a little pumpkin pie or some whipped
Unbelievable
cream.
what he has been doing.
It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
And Cam Curl has also been killing it in the back of our defense. But Tress Way, man, I mean, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud, and he special teams matters, and flipping the field matters, and he does his job, and he doesn't get any respect in the league.
Respect, though.
So I'm gonna polish off my Thanksgiving day with a heaping Tress Way with some whipped cream and more whiskey.
Tress Way and whipped cream. Okay.
And more whiskey, but
Hey,
definitely
man.
with
Whatever gets you through
Tress
it.
Way and some whipped cream. All right, well, to T and Kevin, we'll see you next Tuesday night. To all you guys out there, happy Thanksgiving. We will. It's going to be a short rest from that Monday night victory and into that Tuesday night show. We look forward to spending it with you here. He's Rhett Donnelly.
I'm a one and done, guys. Tim and Kevin will be back. Thank you very much for having me, Ken. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
It was otherwise it's going to be me and Benjamin, and
I got to meet Benjamin.
he's a talker.
Intimately. So.
He is a talker.
Yeah.
I'm Ken Marangolo. This was. Thank God it's Tuesday. Rhett, I'll take care of this. We're still live. We are still live.
I've wanted to say this for a long time. Still live.